Welcome back to Red Devils TV, everybody, and I am Daniel, your host as always. I'm joined by Slow Sports News, and it's going to be a great show. As you can see to my right, we have got a tier list, and we're going to be ranking every single Manchester United player's season so far. So, Matt, how are you doing today?
Very well, pal. How are you doing? All right?
I'm brilliant, thank you. Thank you for joining me this evening, and let's just get right into this. So, before we actually start ranking the players, what are your actual thoughts on United season so far?
For myself, I would say, look, there's a lot of grey areas that we still need to change up and into. There's a lot of formation that we need to sort out, but we're getting main key players back from injuries now. But it's mainly going to be, do you know what? It hasn't been an easy start for us, and with the losses that we've had that we could have easily turned around, but just couldn't finish. I would say that I'm going to give a modest 5 out of 10 so far. Not because the performances were bad, but just not finishing in the right way that we should be doing it. I mean, if you look how on our previous home games and away games, we've scored primarily 80% of our goals through defenders.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, it's literally crazy. I mean, like the lack of goals we've got from our forwards at the moment is ridiculous. I mean, Champions League, Højlund's tearing it up. But it's just down to the league. We're just not scoring enough goals. I mean, all the points look the same on the board at the end of the day. Obviously, we got the 3 points against Luton. But there's been quite a few like 1-goal differences in our wins. I mean, you look at Wolves at the start of the season, you look at the 1-0 against Burnley, 2-1 against Sheffield United, our most recent game, 1-0 against Luton. All the points look the same on the board, and we do look like, we've only got, like, at this time last year, we only had 2 points more than we do right now. So it is a decent start, I could say, but with the injury crisis and everything that we've had to deal with, it has been a frustrating start to the season. So I would agree with you that probably a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 is probably the correct rankings to give it so far. But
and it will come. It will come.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Chelsea, right? They had nearly in relegation zone at the end of the season. Then, over the last 10 games that they've had, the last 2 they've played really strong. Okay, they could have done better against 9-men Tottenham, couldn't they? Or was it 10? I can't remember. I think it was 9.
Point, yeah.
It was 9. It was 9. Yeah. And the last 2 games, I was having a debate with a guy saying, "Oh, we're going to absolutely whoop you when we play you in a couple of weeks' time." And I was like, I don't think you're going to hammer us because you haven't beaten us in the Premier League since 2017. Yeah. We've had our FA Cups and lost against that during that time, but since 2017 we haven't lost at home, and we beat them 4-0 in the last match, and that was in May.
I can see where you're coming from. And we all remember that Carabao Cup Rashford free kick as well. That was a beauty. But yeah, we'll get right into the ranking of the players because we have got quite a few players to go through. Now, I didn't know how to do this because I didn't want to include the younger players, but I've just decided to involve every single player. And Matt, while we go through the segments as well, we can mention keep, sell, or loan if you want to do that. So we'll start off with our main goalkeeper in Andre Onana. Where would you rank him so far? Because obviously he had a very I'm trying to think of the word to use right now. It was a challenging start and it wasn't smooth sailing his start to United. But since that penalty save for Copenhagen, it's like clicked in his brain, and that was like the moment he needed to happen to, get all this confidence back. Because I think that Onana's come into Manchester United and he's felt the weight of the shirt, or the gloves in this case, and with Onana, I feel like that you look at the mistake he made against Lens in pre-season where he's out of his box and he gets chipped from the halfway line. How would you describe Onana's start to the season?
Do you know what? I said this in the last show that we did with each other about a month ago. If you look back when David De Gea started, he didn't exactly have that many clean sheets either. And I think what Onana's coming into, he's never played in the Premiership, and neither did David De Gea at the time either. And, it's a big step up to learn. It's not like Spanish football or Italian football in any way, shape or form. It's fast paced. It's quick succession score. And that's how the Premier League is. When you're considering the Italian league's a bit more slow play, Spanish league, faster pace, but not as, constructed as it is with the Premier Leagues. That's why it's the best football in the world, isn't it? The Premier League.
Yeah.
So you got to give him time, and you got to give players time to adjust to the Premier League standards. So I'm not going to throw him out the boat just yet. Yeah, okay. I mean, right. Put it this way: David De Gea was never a sweeper keeper. He was a stand in the box guy, right? I like the fact that Onana's passing accuracy is there, so he can pop over 30-yard pass quite comfortably in the air. I never saw De Gea really do that so much. I like the fact he's ballsy to come out in front of a player, because players don't expect a goalie to do that, to taking them on near that point. And I think he's on the right path. I just think he needs to find a rhythm that works for him and the defenders he's got, because he's got to remember that Maguire isn't the fastest guy to get back. Yeah. And he's got to consider that when he's got Maguire in defence with him. I'm not saying Maguire's a bad player, but it's just, overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I mean, obviously, we'll get on to Harry Maguire in a moment, because no doubt that's a player that's a massive talking point during this ranking. But with Onana, obviously, just to give him a quick brief out of 10, for me, I'd say, since that Copenhagen save, he's probably been arguably one of our best players. I mean, even though we conceded 3 against Manchester City, some of the saves that he made in that game, he kept it from being a 5-6-0, because we weren't going to score in that game anytime soon. We could have still be playing today and probably wouldn't have scored at this point. Onana kept us in that game. Well, not kept us in that game, but he made it look better than what it actually was. I mean, losing to 3-0 to Manchester City, we've been beaten worse by him, that's for sure, in recent times. So for me, I'd probably suggest giving Onana a 7 or an 8, because I feel like that he's a very important player for us. And I've seen also a bit of a meltdown on Twitter, because, again, it's Twitter, so take it with a pinch of salt, like the Sun reported their articles. But with Onana, this possible injury that he's had during the Cameroon international break, and everyone's panicking now, saying, well, is this Biendi's good enough? Will he play Tom Heaton? What's going to happen now? And people panicking over Onana's possible injury, it shows that he's heavily valued by Manchester United fans and us as a community. So for me, I feel like, especially in recent times, I would give him a 7 out of 8. A 7 out of 10. What would you give him?
I was going to go with a 6.5. That's where I would have begun with him, just where he started off with. As I said, he's new to the team. I mean, I would give him 7 on 8 on it, because he's had a couple of clean sheets, from some decent saves that he's put in there. But for me, I'd give him a 6 or 6.5 for now. I wouldn't give him anything less than that, because he's definitely been doing the job he's been provided with. He just needs to adjust it a bit more.
Yeah, mate, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I'll happily put him as a 6. I think it's a decent ranking, because as well, don't forget, it's his first season in the Premier League as well. And I think that, when majority of teams will actually press in the Premier League, it doesn't matter whether you're facing Luton or Man City. And I don't know how many heart attacks Onana's already given me, because he just dribbles it past him, or he'll make a risky pass. He's very ballsy with what he does, and that's what we paid for him. I mean, that Champions League final against Man City for Inter Milan, he was just dribbling it past for Phil Foden and Erling Haaland. He just didn't care. And with Onana, I give him massive respect with the confidence he has, and hopefully as games goes on and he starts making more clean sheets, and the injuries start coming back, like Luke Shaw, like the breaking news today, he's back in training. Same with Martin. Martin is not fully in training, but Martinez was watching at Carrington today. So, it's positive. So with Onana, especially with the defence we've had in recent times, it's been all over the place. I think I saw a stat where we've tried 7 different duos of of the defence. So I think with a goalkeeper, having our inconsistent defence, it's kind of hard to keep that consistency.
Yeah, you're going to need a solid defence, especially with what Onana wants to do out on that pitch. As you said, he's very ballsy in a lot of the skills that he does to try and move around players, even with the passing. And we haven't got a strong defence at the moment. I mean, it's okay, it's mediocre, because we've got Varane out, ankles made of glass. We've got Martinez with another injury. Luke Shaw's coming back though, so that could bring it up. I wouldn't put him back on left back though. I would probably play him in the left centre back.
Yeah,
because,
exactly. I was going to mention that because obviously we face Everton this weekend. I was going to ask you towards the end of the show about Luke Shaw and that if he is available, would you risk starting him or would you? And where would you play?
Hell yeah, I would definitely. I mean, he's been there before and he's done an amazing job there. I'm not, he's very good on the left back too. But if you've got Reguilón in that position, then I would, I would play him more central based on that. I think with even Dalot actually at left back, I'll probably throw him there because he's, he can do right and left, and I'm happy that we've got Wan-Bissaka back as well because
me too,
definitely.
Wan-Bissaka's properly come back and shown why we've missed him. He's like a prop. I mean, I love Wan-Bissaka. I think he's absolutely brilliant. But I'm happy with giving Onana a 6. And it might look bad on the tier list, but I feel like it's a very decent ranking to give him, considering I think that again, like we've said I think a comment saw from Ben Simons saying that if Onana had a proper defence in front of him, he'd be considered one of the best in the league. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, he's got 4 clean sheets, which is second best, and I think he's joint with Edison for Man City. So and with the injuries,
I think he has it actually second in that list, isn't he?
Yeah, he's second.
He's at the top, and I think he's second in the list.
Exactly. So obviously with Onana, considering Manchester United apparently had a terrible start to the season, we're still what was it? We're 5-6 points away from the top, or whatever the ranking is, or is it?
Yeah.
So it's something short. So the big game on Saturday, Liverpool versus Man City. That's like a title-defining game. That's going to be because Liverpool have properly stepped up in their form this season.
But City haven't beat them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
exactly. So, with Liverpool, I just feel like that, that they're back to their best, maybe. But obviously, the United channel, we're not going to talk about Liverpool. But we'll quickly brush over these players. I mean, Biende and Tom Heaton haven't really had too much cameos. Tom Heaton in pre-season did all right, but I feel like we can safely put Heaton here because obviously we just know his role at United. This doesn't mean he's a bad player, but it just means that he's just not had the opportunities.
You haven't seen enough of him playing. That's the same for Bandier as well. I mean, exactly. I saw him yesterday in the international. Was it yesterday?
I know they beat Germany, Turkey. It was 3-2.
Yeah,
he played that game.
And, he played amazing, but I can't rank him until I've seen him play in the Premiership.
Yeah, I agree.
I generally can't.
So with the possible Onana injury as well, would you consider playing?
Do you know what? I would see him in the mix. I'd like to see how he does. I mean, that's like when we had what's his name from Newcastle, didn't we? Dubravka. I mean, that was a real doozy, that one, because I think the nerves got the better of him in those games.
I think so as well. But with Biende, I feel like, I've listened to what a lot of the Man United goalkeeping staff have come out and said in articles and interviews, and they've said that Biende is a top talent, and I think that's why Onana might have so much fear about going to the AFCON, because if he goes to the AFCON and Biende proves to everyone what the staff at Man United are saying how good Biende is, he might not get his place back.
Do you think he's another Sergio Ramos?
Who that? Sorry.
Do you think he's another Sergio Ramos?
Who? Onana?
No, not Onana. Biende.
Why? What do you mean by Sergio Ramos? I'm not sure what you mean by that.
You don't remember Sergio, the goalkeeper, the old
Romero, not Ramos. Romero.
Romero.
That's why I was so confused. I was like,
sorry, mate. No, sorry. Romero. Sorry, mate. Yeah. I absolutely rated him.
He was the best number 2 in the world. He was the best number 2 in the world.
I rated him over De Gea.
Wow.
I generally thought he was better than De Gea.
Yeah.
And he didn't play him enough.
Yeah. Romero was very mistreated, but again, I can only go off what the staff are saying, and when they're seeing him training week in, week out, it's good to hear that we've got a player like that. So if Onana does get injured or does go to the AFCON, then we have got a player like Biende who, it was a reserve. But I was just very surprised that he hasn't played during the League Cup, and so hopefully he plays during the FA Cup, like when that starts. When does that start? Is that December or is it January the FA Cup starts?
That's January, I believe. Not
Right,
definitely not December.
Yeah,
We got 4 games to go in there.
Yeah, so hopefully Biende can play in that. But we've now moved on to the defence. Now, this is where it kind of gets interesting because of so many of our defenders have played this season. Now, Diogo Dalot, I'm leaning towards a 5 out of 10 because with Diogo, I do like him, but I feel like that he is one of our liabilities when it comes to defence. I feel like that he's not solid enough. I mean, I think the proof's in the pudding when Wan-Bissaka comes back from injury and then Diogo's straight out of his starting position and then he's being either put at left back or on the bench. And I think
How many times has he been caught out? How many times has he been caught out?
For me,
does.
For Diogo, I feel like there's many times where if a direct type winger runs at him, he panics, and I feel like
starts jockeying, doesn't he? Jockeying. Right away.
I look back to the game against Newcastle in the League Cup, and Almiron just completely sprints at him. He doesn't even look over his shoulder, and what happens? Newcastle score the first goal. You look at City's goal, and it wasn't Newcastle. It was the Copenhagen game in Denmark, and that last goal. Oh, sorry, the goal to get them to make it 3-3. Diogo was on the back post and didn't even look over his man, and there's a goal because he wasn't looking where his man was.
Do you know where I would? Do you know where I would put Dalot?
Feel free.
I'd throw him as a CDM. You know.
Okay.
Personally, for me, he's not a winger. Great, he can run up there, but he doesn't do very much. For me, he's a CDM because he can push the balls through the middle comfortably, feed it through to Fernandes, whoever. I think for me, that's where I would play him because keeping them on that right back, Wan-Bissaka's got more than that covered. Left back, again, how many times was he caught out of position?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, I think the only good game he's had against any team at left back was against Arsenal, where he kind of kept Saka really quiet, but he didn't stop them from scoring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, exactly that. For me, I'd probably give him a 5.5 for me. I think I'll put him in the same ranking as where I put Onana. I wouldn't say that he's been in the higher tier of 7 or 8 at the moment. I would definitely put him in mid at the moment.
Yeah,
for myself.
I mean, he has had some good moments as well. I mean, you think back to that Sheffield United goal, which was the winner, where he just an absolute wilder, where he just curled it into the top corner.
That was a beautiful one. That was beautiful.
Again, Diogo has that in his locker, and he's a very attacking-minded fullback. But you know, Aaron Wan-Bissaka had his critics over a few years, where he's been really good defensively, but going forward is where he's lacked that. You know, the skills. But Diogo, when you're a right back, you need to know how to defend, and this is where Trent as well gets so much criticism. But Trent's been moved into midfield as a CDM or as that right-hand sided midfielder. What do you think about Diogo Dalot as like a box-to-box, you know, running up and down the wing, can do the defensive actions when needed, but also carries the ball and progresses with it?
No, definitely not.
Nothing?
No, definitely not. He's not a box-to-box player, never has been. I'd like to say, I can see him doing that, but Dalot, not his style of play. Definitely not. He likes to do he likes to do quick succession, moving the ball forward, and then just ping it in there. You know, that's just how he does it. He's not one for me to be able to be a box-to-box player. No, definitely not.
Yeah, so I'll happily put Diogo behind Onana because I'd give Onana the 6, and I was leaning towards more of a 7. But I'll put Diogo behind Onana there. Now, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Now, for me, I don't think this guy's put in a foot wrong this season.
I love this guy. Do you know?
I love Wan-Bissaka, and I feel like that. You know, I'm edging towards. You know,
7,
I guaranteed 7 or 8, but maybe even
maybe even 9 or 10 because
to think of it, like before he got injured, he was pocketing every left winger in the Premier League, and then when he got injured, we saw how much we missed him, and when he's come back. Yeah, he's been involved with a few losses, but I feel like that he's also, I think, at 5% where he's in the top I think it's top 1 or top 2% of players not dribbled past in the Premier League. So I know that's maybe because of the lack of games he's had, but when he has played his games as well, he still has to have that stat. So I'm trying to think, because I feel like that Wan-Bissaka has probably been one of our best players, especially in defence. And we have missed him when he's been out. But what are your thoughts?
Do you know what? So with Wan-Bissaka, as I said, absolutely love the way he plays. He's just, he is spot on. Who did he? So we played Crystal Palace. Was it Zaha? Was it? No, not Zaha. Ex-Man United player. I can't think. Zaha. Thank you. He said. Zaha said in an interview after he played Man United, he said, the one player that always scares him out on that field when it comes to getting near the goal is Wan-Bissaka. He said, because that guy just comes out of nowhere and he doesn't take your legs out. He just gets the balls with his spider legs. That's it.
Yeah, that I remember he said something similar like that last season when we faced Crystal Palace, and it was when Zaha was through 1-on-1 against De Gea. Then out of nowhere, Wan-Bissaka came in and tackled him, and he stopped it.
Please don't let that be Wan-Bissaka, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, if you go back 3 seasons ago, Wan-Bissaka was having an absolute doozy, wasn't he, with his games? He wasn't on form. He was losing his concentration very quickly, very easily. And then when competition came forward, for his place, that's when you saw a big turnaround in him, and he went back the way he used to play. And his dribbling, his tackling, his watching other players coming at him and able to just stick a foot in and not put a foot in wrong. It's very rare that he would ever get a yellow card. And, this is why I'm so amazed of how he is as a player. But me personally, I'd put him. I'd probably him in the 9 and 10. I'm going to stick it. I'm going to stick it up wrong hand. I'm going to stick him up here, mate.
This is why I said it, because I didn't know whether we should be getting ahead of ourselves. But there's probably only a few players that might be around this area. We don't know about this area. I've lost track. But with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think you hit everything with a nail on the head. Wan-Bissaka, he's a brilliant defender. We've massively missed him when he has been out injured, and hopefully, I think he's just a vital part to this Erik ten Hag system. And you think back to the pre-season when we were trying this 3-1-6 formation, Wan-Bissaka was that extra wide midfielder who would progress from right back and be that extra man to make the 6 up front, making them crosses, staying on the touchline and whipping in crosses, and even with these 1-2s, and his high work rate and the intelligence he has on the ball now, he just looks like a different player. And I think that you could probably say that Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been one of the best players to be influenced by Ten Hag and Ten Hag's methods.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's one who's taken on board what Erik ten Hag has asked him to do.
Yeah,
and you are right. We have missed him as a player on that field. You could see the grey areas where we were struggling the most, and it was mostly down that right wing where we were struggling to try and close players down. And Wan-Bissaka coming back was a big relief, I think, for United as a whole. I think the issues that we're facing at the moment now is a bit more centrally. Now that we've got Wan-Bissaka back, and
I think you're spot on, mate. And obviously we've got a few here. I mean, we'll quickly just brush over Malacia. We've not even seen him this season, so he can
injuries.
He can just go there. But actually, we've I didn't realise. And again, I'm just looking in, and I realise how many our defenders have actually played this season. So obviously, we're going to Luke Shaw now. Yeah. How long's Luke Shaw been out for now? It's been a while.
But about 3 months, isn't it? Easy.
Something like that. And I wanted to ask you about something about Luke Shaw, because I feel like he does have, he's like De Bruyne, where, he has that same injury every single season at some point, where he's out for that month or two, and it always affects us. Now, when Luke Shaw's playing at his best, Shawberto Carlos, we see how good he is, brilliant delivery. We see him with the link up with Rashford. You see the brilliant duo together. But How would you rank Luke Shaw's season so far? Because we're not doing it on the quality of the play, we're doing it on their current season. So obviously,
again, it's difficult one. It's very difficult on that one. I would look personally. I think because I haven't seen him a lot of play. He's played about. I don't even know how many games he's played. 2 or 3, I think it was, before he got injured. I unfortunately, I love Luke Shaw, and I love the way his style of play is, and the way he likes to push up, into the opposition's box a lot of the time, and even have a pop on goal as well. But just because I've not seen a lot of him, it's really difficult to rate. I'm going to put him between 3 and 4 at the moment. Doesn't mean that. Yeah, I wouldn't put him there permanently, because obviously now he's coming back, which was announced today, which is fantastic news. Yeah. That's generally where I put him. But I think him coming back, he'll come back stronger than he was before. That's for sure. Because, if you remember when he broke his leg, his chance of playing professional football was going out the window very quickly, and he fought very hard to get that back, and and he wowed us all, because again his position was up for, just like Wan-Bissaka's, because that was the same season Wan-Bissaka was having a shocker, was the same season that he was having a bit of a shocker, and he turned that around very quickly, especially when the likes of Malacia were coming in. And he turned his game around, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what players need. They need competition. If you've got no competition, then you're pretty much safe.
Yeah, players get too comfortable, don't they?
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened to Shaw. He got too comfortable because there was no one fighting for his position. It's the same for De Gea. He got too comfortable because there wasn't anyone that could compete with his standards.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate.
Yeah.
So, obviously, with Luke Shaw, I'm glad to have him back. He's going to bring a lot to us, whether you play him as that left back or whether you're playing him as the left centre back. We've discussed it briefly. But with Luke Shaw, I've always been curious about him, because I feel like with the type of player he is, I really worry about if he can handle this intensity for this Erik ten Hag system, because I see him around the 60th, 70th minute when he is fit, and he makes stupid fouls, he gets yellow cards, and then that's when his game plan's completely done, because I feel like that he kind of gasses out towards the end of games. I don't think his stamina's too the best. He's a very fit guy, but at the end of the day, I just feel I do worry about him towards the end of games. So I've said that as he's getting older, and to prevent injuries, like whilst we've got someone like Reguilon, whilst we've got someone like Diogo Dalot, maybe experimenting with Luke Shaw, because Johnny Evans, we don't know how long he's out for. Sergio Reguilon, is all right, but I just don't think that. I don't rate him, and plus he's massively injury prone as well. I've seen his history.
Did you know what I like Sergio? I've watched.
Well, this is where we'll get into the debate in a bit.
I actually enjoy him. him. We're about 5 away, but that's fine. We'll wait.
But we'll get onto it in a minute. But we'll move on to Rafael Varane now. Varane last season, our best centre back alongside Lisandro Martinez. It was a proper unit of defenders. Definitely. But what's happened with Varane? I put a thought out that maybe, because people are trying to, especially the media, they're trying to link that it's another falling out like the Jadon Sancho situation. But the way I think about it is that with this massive injury crisis Erik ten Hag's having to deal with at the moment, maybe he doesn't want to risk players like Martial and Rafael Varane, because they are good players, and if we get consistent and we have a starting 11 and they're involved, and we play 4 games in a row, and the 5th game they're both out injured, then we're back to square one again. So do you think that's the case, or do you think there has been an upset with Varane and ten Hag?
Well, if you look at Varane in his last game, he didn't look very happy, did he? Because he wasn't used as a first team player. He was subbed on, wasn't he? And he didn't look impressed, and he was only brought on because of the injury that we had then with Johnny Evans. For me, I think it might be his last season, not based on his injury basis, but I think with I think Erik ten Hag knows the player probably wants to go, so he's not going to play him as much, because the one thing that's always difficult is trying to move a player on that's injured, and especially with his injury ratio at the moment, I think that would if he gets injured again, that would make it very hard to move him on.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think Eric Ten Hag wants to move on. I think he wants to keep him there. But same with Luke Shaw. With what you were saying, my concerns are his injuries again, because when he does get injured, we're back to square one where we were before. You know, I highly rate Varane, and he is a very good defender, and he probably was 5 years ago. But unfortunately, he's now what? How old is he? What, 30? 32? Yeah, right. So he's now getting into his prime. And that's when it becomes a little bit more difficult with Varane. I would probably say he'll probably want to move on as a player. I don't think he might just go to Saudi Arabia team or something and make a fortune like everyone else and play in front of 253 fans, which has happened, isn't it?
Did you say Saudi or Man City? Then I'm not too sure. You kind of
no, Saudi, mate. I'd never say City. Sorry, never, ever would I ever say City, ever.
No, I'm saying because of the lack of fans having the stadium, but that's over your head. But no, with Varane, I'd put him the same as Luke Shaw. Injuries in and out of the team. I just feel like Varane, I mean, the quality's there. It's only if he can stay fit and what the actual ongoing situation is with Varane and Ten Hag.
Oh, definitely.
Hopefully he's in the starting 11 again for Everton, because, that's going to be a very tough game. But, we'll have to wait and see. But with Varane, I think he's a really high-quality player. But, again, it's just another injury-prone player that's added to the books.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably one of my favourite players that's probably wore a Manchester United shirt probably for the last 10, 15 years. I will say that with chest. But Lisandro Martinez, for me, like, if it was what I think of the player, he had his own category. He'd have his own category.
You can't beat that phone case, mate.
It's a brilliant phone case. That's absolutely brilliant phone case. But with Martinez, I mean, like I said, that if this was ranking what I think of the player, he'd have his own category. He'd be all the way up here. But, with how he's played this season, I felt we saw in pre-season that he had a struggling, ongoing issue. And then it came out after the Arsenal game when he had to go off injured, that for the last 3 months of that time when he went off, Eric Ten Hag and the doctors have been telling him to take painkillers for this ongoing injury. And he hadn't did you not hear about that?
No, I didn't. Didn't hear that.
So it was Central Devils and United Plug, very credible sources on Twitter, which you should know about. Yeah. And they came out and said that the doctor has been prescribing Lisandro Martinez with painkillers to reduce the pain of his injury for the time being. And look what's happened. He's then been out for another 3 to 4 months. So I'll have to try and find you the tweet, and I'll send
you. Yeah, ping it over to me. Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, but with that, when I found that out, I was distraught. I was like, "What? Who authorized that? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got a player who's injured. Yes, I know he's an absolute brilliant player, but you let him rest, because we don't know. He could have only been out for, if he didn't play like the start of the season and was only out for 3 or 4 weeks, he probably could be playing and be our regular centre-back at the moment. But he's been out for such a long period of time, and I can't wait to have him back, because the passion he shows, the quality on and off the ball, I think he's absolutely brilliant. And I love Martinez, but I'm going to put him at 5 and 6 for.
I agree
so far, because I feel like that, even though with his injury, and now that we know that it was the start of the season where he was injured as well throughout pre-season, he actually had to deal with all them games. I think it was like 5 or 6 games, including pre-season, that he actually played for us. So Martinez is an absolute warrior, the butcher. Yeah. For me, I'll put him at 5 and 6. But like I said, if it was actually the quality of the player, he'd be all the way up there. But what are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you. It's exactly where I'd put him as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So now, the Iceman, Victor Lindelof. I find this one awkward because I can't stand Victor Lindelof. I feel like that he's a bang average player, but he's a bit of a knob but does the job. That's the way I describe him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just contradicting myself there. I like Lindelof, but I don't. It's like Marmite for me. Like, it depends on the day. But I mean, he scored the goal against Luton. You know, he single-handedly gets us them 3 points because no one else was scoring in that game. That was a very
Yeah,
boring game, to be honest. A
yeah,
waste of 50 quid. But, you know,
absolutely.
if you went to the game. But I just feel like that he's also a player we should be looking at moving on this summer because, you know, he doesn't really offer anything like challenging the starting 11 and his quality of being a player. But the only reason why he's in the starting 11 right now for me is because of the injury crisis we've got. It wouldn't be here if the Varane situation was sorted. It wouldn't be in if, you know, Martinez was fully fit or Luke Shaw was playing at left centre back.
Yeah.
So with Victor Lindelof, I feel like I will put him as a 5, which is higher than I expected than I would give him. But with Lindelof, I just feel like that he's also one of them players that he doesn't kick up a fuss when he doesn't play. You know, if you ask him to play 5 minutes or 90 minutes, he'll be happy with that and he'll go out there and try his best. But I just feel like his best just isn't a high ceiling of quality. But that's my opinion on what are your thoughts?
I think if you went back to 5 years ago with him, I would definitely have said he's definitely a first team starter. So somewhere along the line, I think I still think he puts the effort in, but I think you're right. He's just just above average of a sort of defender that you want in there, and he's probably someone that you would replace as not a first team player, but someone behind Varane to take his place, or somewhere behind even Johnny Evans, for instance. Don't get me wrong, I do like Victor Lindelof, but as you said, he's like Marmite. But the inconsistency of play really affects that defending line. And as a defender, yeah, he does an okay job, but I wouldn't say he absolutely blows me out or blows me away. Sorry, or highly rank him in his style of play. But yeah, I think you're probably right. Between 5 and 6 is average really for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the only reason that we got Martinez, Onana, and Dalot in that list is, well, especially Martinez, is because he hasn't played enough.
Exactly. But when he has played, he has stood out massively. And with Onana as well, it might look like a low ranking with how he's played recently, but I feel like that if I was to ask you how do you think Onana's played over the last 5 games, you probably would put him up here, wouldn't you? Like with the saves.
Yeah, of course you would. Yeah.
But this is obviously the current season. I mean, we'll probably do this video again at the end of the season, reviewing by the entire season. Now we feel like players have turned around because there's probably been a few players that, based on current form, will be very low on the list, but we know they have a premium amount of quality.
Yeah.
But moving on, and this player, I never thought I'd be doing this, but Maguire, for me, I put up there because I think it's like a beautiful Cinderella story with Maguire. Club captain gets stripped of it in the summer. Looks like he's being forced out of the club, almost goes to West Ham. Deal doesn't go through because Man United are cheapskates and wouldn't pay him the 10 million that he would be losing out on his contract. And then what happens? The injury crisis happens, and Maguire has been probably our player of the season so far. And do you think that the amount of abuse he's received over the years as a Manchester United player and captain, and even from England fans as well, and rival fans, the guy has stayed nothing but a true professional. And I do feel like that. I mean, it's obvious he's not the future of Manchester United, but I've said, I mean, Maguire's contract is up at the end of the year. I think he's also got an extension for 1 year as well, if needs be. But if he continues with this form, I have no issue with keeping him at all. I mean, I feel like that is proved to be a true professional in this team. But what are your thoughts on Maguire?
Do you know what? If you go back, 2 or 3 seasons ago, so I went to Old Trafford to go watch him play. I think it was Chelsea we went to go watch him play against. And he came off the bus and all he got was nothing but abuse. They shouted, "Hey, Maguire! Hey, Maguire!" And he's like walking past and slowly puts his hand up like this, like really like coy about doing it. And they started throwing abuse at him. And I was like, wow, how demoralising is that as a player? And, when you're having like 2 full seasons of abuse from from fans from, again, England fans, Man United fans, and getting the abuse like you're getting from them. Do you know what? as if I was that player, I would feel, like utter and utter, rubbish, really, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. Because I mean, it's becoming a more common thing now about people's mental health, especially about players' mental health and stuff. And I won't be surprised at some point Maguire, when his career's over, does speak about how tough it was at that moment in his career. Because I mean, you could see this probably goes back to why Southgate always chooses him, because he's a true professional. Now,
Yeah.
Southgate's his own person. I can't stand Southgate. I think he's an absolute rat. But with the way he performs, I think I'm going to go off on another tangent here. This is what we do all the time. We just go on random tangents, but like. I just feel like with the way Southgate chooses his team at times, you just want to slap him, because this is probably like each generation, we will probably say this. I mean, with the Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard, and Rio and Wayne Rooney, and all them England players we had, we were always saying that this is going to be the best generation we've ever seen. But the amount of quality we've got in this England team, we should be competing with the likes of France, Germany, like all these other teams in the Euros. We need to be competing for the Euros, and we don't just need to get lucky. We need to be completely playing teams off the park. For the last few games for England, this is why I don't like international duty. I only watch the major competitions, because I just don't like during the international breaks, because like I've said, I just find it absolutely boring. Because if we're struggling against Malta and struggling against whoever else we played, it does my head in, to be honest. But that made no sense about talking about Maguire, to be honest. But yeah, with Maguire though, going back to him, I just feel like that he stepped up massively. I feel like that not having the captaincy has kind of took a lot of pressure off him. Maguire's not really talked about negatively at the moment. Is just positive vibes for Maguire at the moment. Everyone's supporting him, everyone's behind him, and I think that's also him. I mean, when I go to United games now, you're hearing a few Maguire chants. His head's fucking massive, and he fucked off Leicester.
He's a slabhead, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. But you can like when he's walking down the tunnel as well, he's waving at all the fans, and he's like clapping the fans when he's walking off. If you look at him last season, yes, he was doing that to obviously show appreciation to the fans, but you can see it in his eyes that he was like really down. And you see, I mean, like what was that moment against Copenhagen? I think it was 3-3. This is when they just scored the equaliser, and then he takes the ball himself, dribbles past 3 players, and then boots it just over the bar, and it hits the crossbar. And
remember that.
Maguire is having these moments where he looks like he actually wants to fight for the badge, which is brilliant. And I think that's probably why, because he probably knows he's not going to be the first choice when the main players are back. But maybe he's just saying that, look, if I am going to move, if Erik ten Hag does want to move me on, I'm going to show everyone why I'm worth the money. Like, you're probably not worth £80 million because of the history. But, if we, like, let's say, for example, if West Ham was to buy Harry Maguire for 40 million in the summer, they'd be rubbing their hands right now saying this has been an absolute bargain. You could probably value him at about 50 million at the moment with his current performances.
Yeah, I mean, I think Erik ten Hag did the right thing with him at the beginning of the season by not playing him. I don't think he's obviously done it as a spite, removed your captaincy. I think personally, Harry Maguire, last season, the season before, played a lot of games. Even when he was injured, he was still playing games. And I think that was his bigger downfall, through playing through injuries, playing through fatigue and tiredness. They can be very detrimental on players. And I think what Erik ten Hag has done is obviously not played him, not because he wasn't good at football. His composure was there. It was just obviously resting him was the right thing to do. And I think that's what Harry needed in the long run, was a time to sit back and reflect on where his mistakes and what he can do to come back better. And do you know when he brought Maguire back on for the first time, I think everyone was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure about this one. And then he surprised us by putting in an absolute dinger of a game. And for me, he probably was my man of the match. And I hope he carries on going further for it. But I hope also at the same time that Erik ten Hag carries on with resting the player from time to time as well, because the last 2 seasons, 3 seasons, he hasn't really had that chance to do that. He was always trying to pick up the areas that weren't being covered properly, and then he was getting stick for it.
Yeah.
And no one could really see through, the curtain of why, he was playing as, what his pay grade is. I mean, you can't blame a player for his pay grade because that's just what a fee's agreed. You can't reflect. I mean, if you look at Anthony, he's an £80 million player, but it doesn't reflect how he plays. But that's just an agreement that's been made. And I think that's what a lot of people forget is when it comes to player fees, the player doesn't get the choice. They just agree. If someone said to me, I'll pay you £80 million a year, Matthew, I'll go, all right, no worries. I'll take it.
Where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't say no, would you? It'd just be silly not to. And with Harry Maguire moving forward, as I said, I hope he carries on with the style of play he's doing at the moment. Because the one thing you always notice is when it came to playing for England, he always played his heart out. And I always just sit there going like, I really wish he could play like that for Man United. I really wish he had the same mentality to go and play for his country as he did for Man United. Yeah. And, I hope as I said, I hope he comes forward more. Definitely.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, mate. Honestly, I mean, we've hit the nail on the head. But yeah, Maguire's turnaround for this season, he's not put a foot wrong in. And obviously, let's not forget about Copenhagen at Man United winning 1-0 with his header. Like if he didn't score in that game, again, we've been saying this a lot in this video, but
Slabhead does it again.
Yeah, but like the thing is with Maguire though is like it's like with the Lindelof situation with Luton. If they don't score that goal, we're not winning that game because our forwards aren't doing their actual job. But when we get onto the forwards, I'm pretty sure that's going to be a very interesting topic of conversation. But just for everyone that's watching as well, I really appreciate all your comments. I'm trying to get them up as much as I can on the screen, but I really appreciate all the comments and just keep putting your comments in down below, interact with each other, make sure you leave a like on the video, share this video around and get your friends involved, and subscribe if you are new as well. But I really appreciate all the support. But this one is one I'm looking forward to talking about. Now, the chant, Johnny Evans is a Red, he hates Scousers. But this guy, when it was officially announced that we were signing him, I mean, I liked it in pre-season. He was like, you know what? He's looking for a new club.
What a good gimmick this is going to be.
Yeah, but with Evans, it's like, I don't know, finding something in the charity shop that you end up loving. Do you know what I mean? Like you buy it for 1 or 2, but then it has a lot of sentimental attachment to you. Yeah, with Evans, you know what? I'm putting him as an 8. I feel like that. Again, another play. Like if you used to say, right, like because a lot has happened in the last 10 years since we last won the league. If you used to say to us that Johnny Evans would go on to win another Premier League at Leicester, and then in 2023, 10 years later, he's back at the age of, what is he, 34, 35?
34, yeah.
34, and he's starting for Manchester United. You'd be like, well, he must have been brilliant. How good were Leicester?
All right, tell me this
if you
then.
say that in 2013, you'd be like, well, how good does Evans go on to become? And you'd be like, yeah, we signed him after he got relegated. That's what we did. Do you know what I mean?
Tell me this then, Dan. You're saying all this, right? You're saying what a charity thing it is to bring him back in. But he's scored 2 goals already, mate.
I know.
He's done more than our midfield.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Even though one was disallowed, he's still done it.
The thing is, though, what I love about Evans as well is that you can't. It's the classic phrase: you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and he's literally just an absolute. He's just a brilliant player, and
he's teaching the youngins how to actually be as a Man United player and play for that badge.
Definitely, and I feel like that. A lot of our younger players as well probably admire Johnny Evans because I think he's probably one of the last parts of the DNA of what an actual Manchester United player is supposed to be. I mean, there was talks that after Leicester won the league, Man City went in for Johnny Evans as a centre-back option, and Johnny Evans said no because of his love towards Manchester United. Evans is a quality player. He's a true professional, like I said with Maguire. Now, obviously, for fans out there, for the single-minded people out there, the Twitter bashers, the keyboard warriors out there, they probably say that Evans and Maguire and all these players are outdated. They need to go. We're Manchester United. We're supposed to be having the Varans and Martinez's lead us to glory. But realistically, it doesn't matter who is in the starting 11. It doesn't matter who wins us the game. They're all Manchester United players at the end of the day. It doesn't matter who's on the bench, who's on the starting 11, or who's in the reserves for me. Every player can make a difference, and Evans is living proof of that, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely spot on with that one. Definitely.
Now, obviously, we've literally briefly mentioned it, but Sergio Reguilon. Now, this is going to be interesting because I don't rate him, but Matt, I'll let you.
But you got a right to play to rate him first.
Yeah. So, yeah. My values are a bit low with this one, but it's nearly Christmas time, so I'll let you take Santa's the reins on this one.
Fine.
We've got our little red army of reindeers. Oh, that sounds a stupid analogy, but Sergio Reguilon. I'm what's he called? Mark Cuban in Shark Tank. Pitch me why I should change my mind on Sergio Reguilon.
Do you know who he reminds me of? And you'll probably laugh when I say this. But it's probably not your area, a bit more like mine. But he reminds me of Dennis Irwin when he used to play. Okay. He reminds me of him, If you watch his gameplays, right, when he has been playing, yeah, okay, he's very defensive-minded, that's for sure. But, dude, he's got no worries of dribbling that up front. You watched some of his games back on his gameplay, and he's dribbling around defenders to get the ball up and in there. He's very fast-paced. It's definitely something that you would have on a day-to-day basis. If I was United, I probably would sign him up, and I would have him in my team. I do rate him. I mean, he hasn't played a lot of games this season, so I probably would put him in the 5 to 6 section. Not because he's a bad player, but because, of his gameplay. He hasn't really put a foot wrong at the moment, for me.
Okay, well, I think it's a massive statement comparing him to Dennis Irwin for starters. but with Sergio Reguilon, I'll agree with you. The first 2-3 games he played for United, I'll admit, standout player, played really well for us. But as he's got comfortable and as the games have gone on, I see his link-up play with Garnacho or Rashford, and there's times where the opposition will target our left-hand side because they know Rashford won't track back. They know Garnacho's got a mistake in him, and they know that Reguilon likes to commit himself, like you said, because he'll run at defenders. But I went to that Newcastle game for the League Cup, and there was a moment which is where we conceded the second goal, and Livramento tackles Garnacho when he's on the ball. Garnacho lost the ball, fair enough. That was on Garnacho. But Reguilon had a good 10 yards behind Garnacho and was seeing that he was being pressed. And instead of keeping himself back and be like, right, I'm here if you need me, he bombed forward and started creating an overlap. And then Garnacho loses the ball, and then that space is wide open. Then you had 2 Newcastle players run into that area. And that's just not the first time that I've noticed that happen. There's been many times where we haven't conceded goals from it, so he's kind of got off lucky. But that was where we did concede from a goal, and that's why you can probably say that when you go 2-0 down, especially with the majority of this group of players, their heads drop and they can't have enough fight to get back into the game. So I just
would you play him over Malacia?
No.
No.
I really like Malacia, and the way Malacia played last season. I feel like Malacia, with his discipline and the way he times his tackles, needs a lot of improvement. But he's only 22, 23 years old, so I feel like that with Reguilon, he's 26. I think Reguilon is. So I
think he just needs to give him time because obviously
I'll happily give him time, but I thought as well we only signed him on a 6-month loan deal as well. Was that correct?
That was yes. So he should be going back in January.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Well, they're trying to stop. Apparently, I was watching the Sky Sports News earlier. Apparently, they're trying to stop loan moves. Apparently, they're trying to stop loans happening during transfers.
No, so that was I saw that was Fabrizio Romano tweeted it. It was for like organisations or owners who own different clubs. So, for example, Newcastle won't be able to loan any teams in Saudi Arabia, for example, like or Crystal Palace with Leon because their owners own the same clubs. I think it's
Yeah,
something like that. It's not stopping loan moves completely. I think it's the ownership of clubs. So, like Man City, how they loan players to the Malden City, the teams in America.
definitely.
I think it's something like that, which I agree with. I think that's I mean, Saudi Arabia with the amount of money that they spend, especially with Newcastle, they could like with Ruben Neves, he went out on in there into that league, and then Tonali's now suspended, and there was rumours that Newcastle were going to loan him in January for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
It's very sneaky, so I can see why the Premier League might want to install that rule, but I back it. But I've not heard anything about actual loan moves being, cancelled or anything. But with Regulon, for me, I just feel like that he just commits himself too easy. But I'm willing to give him time, so I will put him as a 5. I'll put him here because he stepped up when he did the injury. He's got behind the fans. He's very passionate. So but with his certain games he's played, I can also see why Tenag has gone with Dalot at left back over
Yeah, yeah.
Regulon when Regulon has been available. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, Simon Davies has just come forward and said, reminds him of Benjamin Mendy.
Well, that's not good, is it?
No, definitely not.
Well, hopefully he's not. Well, I'm not going to say the word, but but yeah, Benjamin. I mean, Mendy was very underrated at City as a player. He was very underrated, but I think he also there's a certain under age.
I do. I mean that's fair enough. I went with Dennis Irwin, so that's got to be better, right?
But no, but as I was saying, Benjamin Mendy for me was an underrated fullback, but I think he also, I mean, he likes underage people as well, doesn't he? So whatever the allegations are, but
Yeah.
anyway, move on. Kobe Mainu, for me, this guy is an absolute star. He's going to be a brilliant player, but it's just whether we can get that development, and he was performing.
See, I'm going to compromise with you there. I'm not going to agree with you.
Oh, with Regulon, I'll go back.
No, not with Regulon, Mainu.
Oh, Mainu, right? Okay.
Yeah. I'm
right.
not.
Are you not a fan?
No, I am. I am a fan of him, and I do like him. It's just I can't personally sit there and say he's an amazing player because I've only seen him play 2 or 3 times before he got injured.
Yeah.
And my personal opinion is he only looks really good is because he's fresh legs, and we haven't had that sort of play from that position. You've got Casemiro who's aging a bit. He was probably very good in his prime. Or he's getting past it now a little bit, isn't he? I think with Casemiro, and the same with McTominay. He looks sharper than McTominay, but again, I haven't seen enough play from him to be able to say. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's going to be an absolute, superstar. I reckon. He'll be definitely there in the top ranks. That Mainu guy. It's just difficult to rate him when you haven't seen enough of him play. If you look at Planet Faz, he's gone to a lot of his training sessions, seen him in the academy, and see how he plays. And you can definitely see the talent there. But when you're pushing up to Premiership standards, and you've got a player, he's only played 2 or 3 games, it becomes very difficult to say, is it going to work for him? I mean, I'm going to back him all the way, and I don't mean to sound negative about the guy, but I need to see him more. I need to see more play out of him to make that decision because, being as young as he is, mistakes are going to happen. And I just want to see more play out of him, I think.
Okay, I can see that point. I mean, I have watched him in the youth setup since he has come back from injury, playing for the under-21s. He does seem like a massive standout player. You do always look at him and you see him as, the standout player, like I've just said. And during the preseason, the fact that he was playing with the main starting 11 against all the big boys, against you, Real Madrid, against the likes of Dortmund and Arsenal, especially. I mean, everyone was making memes that Arsenal bought Declan Rice for 100 million, Kobe Mainoo 0 with a load of laughing faces. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that was the typical United fan just try to rub it in, and because Kobe Mainoo had a very decent game for that 45-minute performance before we got took off at half time, because Ten Hag liked making that 45-minute change. But with Kobe, I mean, I am going to put him as as a 2, because obviously we've not seen him for the starting 11. But for the potential that this guy has, this is where I say to you that I believe this guy will be he'll be in the England squad. I feel like he'll be
100%. And I agree with you. I concur with you on that.
He'll be our. If things go well, he'll be one of our main midfielders for a long time, because the United fan.
He's going to be joining Bellingham. That's what he's going to be doing.
That'd be brilliant. I mean, and the fact is as well, he's only 19, so
he's still young.
Exactly. So he's got at least 2 to 3 years of development physically, but then obviously he's always going to bulk up, and I think he's 6 foot now. He's he looks like he's got. I think it's more about protecting this player and not overworking him. So that's probably why Ten Hag has kept him in the under 21.
100%. Yeah.
Whether he goes out on loan in January, maybe that, or Eric Ten Hag will keep him as an option. I'm not too sure, but with Kobe, I feel like the potential's there. But right now, the season just isn't.
He's back in training, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he's back in training, but I just don't feel like, unless it's like an FA Cup appearance or maybe the odd appearance against maybe a relegation team, for example, we will see Kobe Mainoo. But starting against the likes of Liverpool's, Chelsea's, Man City's, we won't see that anytime soon.
No. So Ground Joshi 101 says, let's hope he's not another Paul Pogba. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that with Mainoo, the way he does play, he does show similar traits to how Paul Pogba does play. Very, very like technical, but knows how to shield the ball, can be physical when needs to be, doesn't back out of challenges. He does remind me of a young Paul Pogba. And Paul Pogba, I really like Paul. I thought he was a brilliant player, but the injuries, and the fact we didn't actually build a team around him.
Another French thing, injuries.
Yeah. That's another issue with French players. Don't know what it is about them. Maybe it's the baguettes. That's what makes their bones or something. I have no idea. But
I think it's the croissants, mate. But no, I agree with you. I loved Paul Pogba. I'm just gutted it didn't work out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, well, he's now banned now, isn't he, for doping, whatever it is. So
that's what happens when you be stupid.
Yep, right. Yeah. And we don't need to talk about this. Donny van de Beek.
Straight into the one. I feel bad for the guy. I really do.
I feel sorry for him, but again, I just look at it and I'm like, at this point, you look at it and he's been under 3 different managers now. 4 if you want to include his loan spell at Everton while Rangnick was here.
Yeah.
It hasn't worked out, and in pre-season when he scored that goal and you see him running off screaming in celebration, it brought a tear to my eye, because I was so happy for him, and I was like, I've always loved Donny, and I thought that if any manager could prove Donny van de Beek's quality, it would have been Ten Hag, but it just hasn't worked out. And yeah, I just feel.
How can you spend that sort of money on a player and not actually use him physically? He brought back a goal when we were 1-0 down and 2-0 down, I think it was. And he scored almost, I think it was on his debut, wasn't it, when he made his first game?
Yeah.
And has he been putting feet wrong? I don't know. I generally don't know what happened to him. So, buying him in as a first team player, everyone's excited about him coming in. And for the last 3 seasons, he's been a bench player.
Yeah. Like, there's how you have your season ticket holders, they have their name engraved onto the seats. I think that Van de Beek has his own place on the bench. He has his name engraved as a seat. But with Van de Beek, I feel like that it is time that we do get rid of Van de Beek. And it's a shame, because the fact is that the season before we bought him, he came 28th in the shortlist of the Ballon d'Or, for Ajax. under
Yeah, but
Ten Hag.
we need to cash in while we can on him. That's the
Yeah,
problem, and we keep letting players slip through our fingers and not getting any money out of it.
yeah. So well, with Van der Beek, I feel like the quality is there, but it's just a disappointing the way it's turned out. But when Ten Hag is coming out and saying in press conferences that he doesn't have the players to play the system he does at Ajax, mate, you've got about fucking 5, 6 Ajax players that you used to coach. Like you've
Yeah,
got Anthony, you've got Onana, you've got Martinez, you've got Donny. Mason Mount, I believe he went on loan at some point to Ajax or something, didn't he? Like,
yeah, you did.
yeah. So there's your ones already. And obviously with Malacia, Feyenoord, he has had players. I mean, it's actually concerning how many players have actually signed from that league. To be honest.
Yeah, but I think people forget what a totally different league it is to
Exactly.
the same as what when he was training at Ajax. So even for Erik Ten Hag,
Do you think Ten Hag needs to take accountability then, because he's there blaming that he can't play his style with these players? Do you think that his style doesn't work in the Premier League?
no, exactly that. That's exactly what I mean. You can't. Is it the Eredivisie? Is that what it's called?
Eredivisie, yeah.
Yeah, right. So totally different type of play. You're talking about Premier League, as I said to you before. It's fast-paced, ticky-tacky football, isn't it? And it's getting it in there. And it's not the same league at all in any way. So you can't play the same structure that you had there because it worked there. You've got to put something better together that's going to fit in the system of the Premier League, because teams are just going to pull you apart. And we've seen the signs of that, and especially through the middle. We like playing. He's got the style of wing plays, and there's exactly the same plays that he had at Ajax, and it worked for Ajax. But it's not going to work for Man United in the Premier League.
Yeah,
we need to be more structured, more central, and if you went back to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer football, it was counter-attacking and defend.
Yeah.
Neither really worked for
safe all his tactics. He was very safe with the way he set up for games. We had some great moments under Ole, but I just feel like that. I mean, he got sacked for a reason. It was 2 years ago yesterday he got the sack, and the rest was history. But
exactly.
Yeah, I just feel like that all his time, Ollie was out of his depth. I think it's like the Southgate situation. He took us to the best he could, but as an actual manager, I just don't think he was right for us. And
no, but the same thing's happened, hasn't it, with Erik Ten Hag? If you look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, we finished second that season, didn't we? Yeah. Right behind City that season, and then obviously the next season started and it all started going downhill. And the same looks like the same is happening with Erik Ten Hag at the moment. I'm not saying it's going downhill right now, but he started off really well. We finished fourth. We got to the Carabao Cup final and won it. We got to the FA Cup final, but lost it. Doesn't matter. He still got us there.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show that how quickly these things can turn around based on your style of play. So it probably worked at the time because other Premier League teams weren't expecting it. But then later on, it's starting to show, and they've picked up our weak spots.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. Now, this one's going to be interesting. Casemiro. I'm going to put him here.
Yeah.
Because with Casemiro, I just feel like with the type of player that he is, I think the quality's there, but I feel like his legs are going. That's the only thing that I can describe it as. And it's unfortunate, but we need a player there. We need a replacement for Casemiro. Now, I thought Casemiro would be here and be like a veteran type player where that would be able to help us
Valencia.
Out like the next not 4, but maybe 2 to 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And he would do a job for us. But
you remember what he said, didn't you? When he first came, he goes, "There's a problem at United, I'll come and fix it." And he did that one season. He did that one season to fix it. And he done a bloody amazing job at it.
He did.
I think he's just had enough of losing, because that's all United seem to be known how to do at the moment. And, there's a lot of pressure when he's trying to fill an area that he hasn't got the backup he needs.
You've hit the nail on the head there. I feel like that there's actually nothing really wrong with Casemiro. I mean, he came back from an injury, played in the Carabao Cup for 45 minutes against Newcastle, got took off for Amrabat. And then what happened? It was international break like a week later or 2 weeks later. Then he's out with Brazil. I remember doing a video talking about how much this is why I hate international break, because these injuries happen and it really affects us, because it's more frustrating when the player doesn't get injured for your club. It's for the international team or when they go on loan or something. For me, it's absolutely bonkers. But
exactly.
Yeah, but this one again, another player, Scott McTominay. I'm putting him up there.
Do you know why I'm laughing?
The fact is that this guy is our top scorer. Is that right? Or joint top scorer?
No, he is. He scored 3 goals for us.
Yeah, it's absolutely mental.
All right, answer me this, Dan. Go back last season. Where would you put Maguire and Wan-Bissaka and McTominay last season? And this season, they're all at the top and proving us wrong.
Yeah.
Isn't that ironic?
What do we know about football? That's another way to say, what do we know about football? We just, yeah.
Does it not show it's the players that's the problem? It's the team.
Yeah, possibly. You probably hit the nail on the head there because, with McTominay, I mean, Goldbridge especially, massive. I really like Goldbridge, but, like the thing is, you think back to the McFred days, Goldbridge would absolutely lose his shit, and it was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, McTominay again.
Yeah. Like, what was it? What I remember, what was it? We conceded. I think it was to. We conceded to Newcastle, and McTominay lost his man. And Goldbridge slams his desk and goes, piss off, saying they wear black and white because they're supposed to be a zebra cross. It's an easy path for 3 points. What the shit is this? He was absolutely losing his head. It was absolutely brilliant. But, I mean, McTominay, we've always known he's never been a defensive mid. We've known this for day one. But
you think he's a number 9?
Mate, you know what? Hoyland's not scoring at the moment. McTominay is. Stick him up front. That's all I have to say.
But Eric Ten Hag did do that. Didn't he?
I mean,
a couple of games ago, he put him up front, didn't he? Do you not remember that?
Yeah.
I think it was against Copenhagen. Was it Copenhagen?
It was when, what was it? We did a 4-2-4, wasn't it? The formation went for McTominay would join Hoyland as that second striker type role.
But that's what he used to be.
When
in the academy, he was a striker.
He was a striker in the youth academy.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I didn't realise how long we've been recording for, to be honest. So
we'll speed through it. It's fine. We'll speed through it.
We'll speed through it. Now, Bruno Fernandes. See, it's an hard one with Bruno because I feel like he always puts in a 6, 7 out of 10 every game.
Yeah.
And there has been games where he has won us games. You look at the Burnley game. You look at the Nottingham Forest game earlier in the season. I would put him as a 7, I feel like he's a very consistent player. But the only games Bruno Fernandes has performed badly in is when he's been put on the right wing, which we know is not his best position. We know that he plays crap there. So,
where does he play for Portugal? Answer me that.
Number 10.
Right, but they play him on the left, don't they?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and do you know what? I watched that Portugal game, and he played amazingly on that left wing.
Yeah,
I've never seen him play like that. Those balls he was whipping in from those areas, absolutely spot on. And I probably would play him over Garnacho there. That's a big ballsy statement there, but I would play him over Garnacho there if he could play there. If Garnacho could go on that right hand side.
Yeah.
He's either central. He's definitely not right. I hate when they put him out of position in the right wing because it just doesn't suit his style of play.
I agree. I agree massively. I mean, he was a winger when he was younger for Sporting Lisbon, and then then he moved. No, not for Lisbon. Sorry. When he played Porto, that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know that he was a winger when he was younger, and obviously because he wasn't typically fast, he made sure that his delivery and creativity was top notch, and that's when he became a more creative player and ended up becoming a number 10.
Exactly.
And the respect I have for Bruno Fernandes, I mean, the guy's been through a massive roller coaster. It's bigger than the big one at Blackpool.
You have to admit he was a breath of fresh air when he came in.
100%. But we should have got him in the summer. We shouldn't have got him in the January. We should have got him in the summer.
Agreed.
Fernandes is absolutely brilliant for me. And Joshua has just said it here perfect in the chat that Bruno needs that free role. And I completely agree with you. Because as well, if if we were to experiment with Bruno Fernandes and play him on the left wing, maybe that's where we could fit in Mason Mount, and then Mason Mount gets more game time, or Eriksen, and then you have two number 10s as that creativity. So
Yeah,
for me,
agreed.
I feel like that Bruno has been playing really well, and I feel like he just doesn't put a foot wrong in at the moment. But that's just my opinion. I know he's had his up and downs this season. Him and Rashford have had massive criticism. But Bruno, for me, I think that, you know, I know he's petulant. I know he throws his arms around in the air and stuff. But, that's what makes Bruno Bruno, in my opinion.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Sofyan Amrabat. Now, for me, I'm putting him down here.
Agreed.
I feel like that this loan spell. I mean, I watched a few games for Fiorentina last season. We watched Morocco. We all watched Morocco win the World Cup because they were the surprise of the tournament, and he did stand out. I mean, last season he was very good for Fiorentina. One of the best progressive midfielders in the league. But again, it's a different league, and this is where I want to say to you, Matt, that I would honestly look at players in the Premier League. You look at the way Bayern Munich do their business. If any lower team has got a good player, they'll snatch him off him and make him their own. I do that to someone like João Palhinha from Fulham. I think he's a sitting duck. I think he's absolutely brilliant. I would love him at United. A CDM. He's clear of Amrabat. I think he's on par with Casemiro based on quality, because Casemiro's quality, but Casemiro's just performances at the moment.
I kind of feel they brought Amrabat only in for just to as a replacement player.
Yeah, I agree.
To fill in for the injuries. That's what I think he was brought in for.
I completely agree. I think he was a massive panic buy. I think that's why we didn't actually go in for him. So with Amrabat, I was happy when the deal happened because it's another body that we can have. But I just feel like that is really struggling to adapt to the Premier League. Hopefully, we have got him for the full season, so hopefully his form does continue. But he's in and out of squad as well. He's not been playing every single minute. When
exactly.
So we've been having a midfield. Our most recent games, we've had a midfield three of Eriksen, Fernandes, and McTominay. There's been no midfield defensive-minded players in Amrabat, or I don't know, like Lou said before with Diogo Dalot. So yeah, I feel like that Amrabat, he's struggling to adapt to the Premier League. He's struggling to adapt to this system, but I just feel like it's been a bit flat so far from Amrabat.
Yeah, agreed.
Christian Eriksen. This is an hard one because I think that this guy is the best,
creator.
The best creator we've got in our team. Yeah. But it's just a fact that he gasses out. I mean, I'm
gonna put him at a 4, mate, for that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He's a second half player. He's a second half player you bring on.
I mean, I know he died a few years ago, but then came back to life. But I just feel like you've got to judge him on performances. He's not a Make-A-Wish kid. You don't need to give him a sob story and give him a bypass. But
yeah,
I just feel like with Eriksen, I just feel like that again. It's the availability. He's quite all right with his injuries. He's not injured all the time. But I just feel like that his stamina is very, very low. And like you said, he's a second half player for me at max.
Yeah, he's someone you would bring on in probably like the 70th, 80th minute. Quick succession, creative play, because he is very good, especially with his pinpoint crossing in, picking up players who are moving in for a position. He's very quick at that. And, I do like his style of play, but he's definitely not a 90-minute man for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, mate. But our new signing, Mason Mount, I'm going to put him at a 5 just between Lindelof and Dalot, because I feel like that he's not had the chances, but when he has played, he's put up a shift. So I would say probably a 5.5, maybe just edging a 6.
Edging a 6, but again, he hasn't played enough.
Exactly. So, but it's not like the likes of Van der Beek and Kobe Mainoo where he's not played at all, because when he has played, he has put up a shift, and I feel like that. His best game for us was that Crystal Palace 3-0 victory. He was creating. Yeah. He was on set pieces. Like Bruno Fernandes on set pieces. I absolutely love him, but the guy couldn't hit a water out of a boat. Like Mason Mount, he has very good delivery on set pieces, and
just needs to find that goal. That's what he
yeah,
needs to find.
again,
And
I feel like with the Onana situation, when Onana made that penalty save, he's been on the rise ever since. I think once Mason Mount creates something brilliant or scores his first goal, he'll get them chances and be a lot better. But
it was very ballsy putting him in as a number 7. That's the one thing I'll say.
yeah,
Say it. I definitely wouldn't have put him in as that number. I know
no,
we're trying to fill that spot, but I don't think he would be in that one player straight away. And neither was Ronaldo when he started up, was he?
I mean. But when people were saying put Garnacho as a 7, I was disagreeing with that. I was like, not a chance.
Number 7 is a status number.
Yeah.
And, if you look at the likelihood who wore that shirt before Ronaldo, it was David Beckham, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Who else? Someone else wore it as well. Who else wore the number 7?
You've had loads. You've had Cantona. You've had the likes of Cavani. You've had like, do you know what I mean? You've had Falcao. Not like.
I'm trying to remember who it was before Ronaldo had it, because Ronaldo was playing on a. He was never always a number 7. So he took the number when someone just left. Michael Owen.
Right there, Michael Owen. There you are.
Yeah, Michael Owen. Cheers, Josh. But yeah, I think giving him the number 7 was a very big status, and I was thinking they even know something that we don't.
Yeah.
Or they're just trying to fill it in because Mason Mount plays for England.
Yeah, maybe.
It's a very cliche number to give someone, but I think give him a bit more time, maybe thin the herd out on the players that we don't need, and bring in a much stronger squad alongside Mason Mount, then I think, he could probably fill in that role and will be there.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate, to be honest. Now, Foucault Palestra. For me, I'm putting him above it.
Would you really? I can't rate him again. I mean, probably a 6 out of push, but I can't rate him again. He's not played enough, and it's a real shame because he's an amazing player. I do rate him.
Again, I feel like with Palestra, I mean, maybe probably 6 is more reasonable. But with Palestra, I mean, I don't know why this guy isn't playing. He's better than Antony. He's better than Sancho. He's better than Garnacho.
Yeah.
And the fact is, for me, he's our best winger. Because
and he doesn't get enough game time.
Exactly. But the fact is that this guy, in January, would have been here for 3 years. Do you know what I mean?
He would tear up the City defence. I'm not just saying this, but unfortunately, Man City are miles ahead of us. But I would say he would tear up their defence comfortably.
100%. I feel like with Foucault, like
link him up with Garnacho.
Yeah. I describe him as a diamond in the rough. I just see him and I'm just there like, what does he have to do to be noticed? He played like he doesn't like the amount of game time he gets at Man United, but every single international break he gets called up to Uruguay and he's starting for Uruguay. You've got Darwin Núñez, you've got Suarez, you've had Cavani, all these brilliant players who play for Uruguay. You've got what's his name, Gamariez. You've got all these brilliant players that play for Uruguay, and they all rate how highly Foucault Palestra is. I mean, you've got Valverde. Valverde says that Palestra knows where to pass to him or link up with him every single time because he knows that. Because I'll try and find the quote, but Valverde said on international break about how much Palestra is brilliant and for the age he is, and how he does deserve more game time and stuff. Like if Valverde is saying that. I think the proof's in the pudding. But for me, he just like every single game he plays. Again, I think it's like the Bruno Fernandes situation that when he does play, it's always 6, 7 out of 10s minimum. For me, Palestra won that game against Fulham. He made the difference when he came on and as that substitution. Another late win. But and I just look at him and I'm like, why hasn't he had a run of games yet? Because just give him 5, 6 games. Just give him a run out. don't just give him these little 10, 15-minute cameos. Let him prove himself, because
Yeah,
the amount of chances Garnacho's had, the amount of chances Anthony's had, the amount of chances Sancho's had under Ten Hag, Palestri's had nothing. I don't know why that is. And I just feel like that if Palestri was to go somewhere like Brighton,
it's a Van der Beek situation all over
yeah.
again.
But I
Isn't
feel
it?
like that if Palestri was to go somewhere like Brighton, if Brighton was to pick up Palestri, guarantee you a big team picks him up for major money.
Yeah.
Like, because they would give him that game time, they'd make him like evolve into a brilliant
To
player.
let him go would be a big mistake.
100%. I could.
You need to bubble wrap that boy and cover him up in cotton.
I completely agree with you, mate. I completely
That's
agree
what
with
you
you.
need to
I think he's one player that deserves a chance. I don't know what he has to do to do it. I mean, there's just certain games that we're just crying out for him for someone that will make crosses into the box, because we stick out Bruno Fernandes on the right wing because we don't create enough for our forwards. Put Palestri there. He's got the poacher's instinct. He knows how to create. He's a supportive winger. He'll support the forwards. He'll support the defence. He'll support the midfield. The guy's work rate is non-stop, and I absolutely love him.
Agree.
I just feel like that he just needs that more game time, in my opinion. But Hannibal Mabry. Now I'm going to put
3 to 4 for me.
Yeah, with Hannibal,
he's got too many anger issues because he knows he can do better. He knows he can do better.
I mean, I saw an edit of him, and it was when Ten Hag was saying, by showing him his highlights, because you know how Ten Hag likes to analyse the players' like performances and stuff. It says, and there was a picture of Hannibal in a stray jacket because he's an absolute psychopath.
Cannibal.
But with Hannibal, you know, I like him. He's a very decent like impact player, but I feel like that he's a player that we should move on. I don't think he's good enough to be United quality.
No, he's the sort of player you would send to Southampton.
Yeah, I agree with that. Or you'd probably see him like playing in Luton or something. I would say maybe he's Premier League proof. Like, I just feel
Nottingham
like
Forest, maybe.
Yeah, I just feel like his discipline just. Yeah, he's just a long-haired Roy Keane, in my opinion. Like, you know, he's got the afro.
Exactly what. That's exactly what Joshy just said as well.
Josh said that.
Yeah, he's like a Roy Keane.
He's like the love child between Fellaini and Roy Keane, is the way I see it. You know, like just like an absolute psychopath. But you know, he like I said before, with another player, a bit of a knob, but does the job at times.
Yeah, and absolutely.
But with Hannibal as well, he did have that period where he played that few games in a row, and he just kept getting yellow cards left, right, side. I never thought I won that much money on Bet365 before in my life. We're just betting every single game, and Hannibal to get booked, and he would just come through. But
agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Hannibal just needs to either move on or really work on his discipline, I believe.
Yeah.
Alejandro Garnacho. This is where we get interesting now, because the forwards. Yeah, I'm
going to put him 5. I'm going to say 5 to 6 on him.
You're putting 5 or 6. Yeah, I was thinking 4. Yeah, I don't mind putting him right to the end.
I'd say he's bang average at the moment. I don't think he's done anything extraordinary for Manchester United at the moment. I wouldn't say he's in the same area as what Casemiro or Hannibal's playing. I definitely he's been putting the gut work in there, and he's had some good shots on goal. Just unfortunate that none of them hit inside in there. They're just pinged on the crossbar or just gone a little bit over from the position he's playing from. He's definitely putting the work ratio, but I think he's just struggling how to dribble around the likes of Walker. You know, when he was playing it up against him, that Walker, I highly rate him. I hate to say it, I highly rate that man.
Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker in defence, mate. That's like trying to break down a brick wall. I hate to say it, but he's a very difficult person to play against. And
like you said, it's like trying to break down a brick wall with a paper airplane. That's literally what it's like. He's an absolute unit. The fact that he's in his mid-30s and he's absolutely rapid in it. Like he's still but
exactly. And it's a shame that and at least Garnacho had the balls to put the effort in to try and take him on. He did well. He was trying to ping the ball in there, but again, he wasn't doing anything extraordinary that we were going to go, wow, that is something we need right this second.
Yeah. Do you think that Garnacho is better as an impact player then? Like,
Yeah, definitely.
bench. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. He's not someone who's just going to come on and wow you straight away, but he definitely does make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Well, yeah, I agree with you. You know, Garnacho, give him time. I feel like he is very overhyped by our fan base, but I'll still happily give him a lot of time. Yeah. But yeah, I just feel like that with Garnacho, just give him time. And
Absolutely.
yeah, he's
Absolutely.
he's 10x star boy for me. But anyway, Poppadom, he goes down here. You know, that made of that's just breaks anything.
Do you know what? I would put him there. Right. So let's go back 5 seasons ago. Okay. When
How long's it been here? Was it like 8 years, whatever it was?
8 years, something like that. So if you go back 5 years ago, is when his inconsistency started at United.
Yeah.
And I know why they started. And I think if you don't know, then I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So his mum died actually.
Oh, okay.
About 5. I think it was about 5 years ago. So he was going through that period where his mum died and trying to still play for Man United. He had a couple of weeks out, but detrimental to any player when they lose someone so dear to them. And then that's where I think it all started for him, because obviously you're always going to be a mummy's boy, and you always need that support from your own mum. And I think over the last few years he's lost his way a little bit, and that's where the inconsistency started with him. I think because he used to dribble those balls around and ping those balls in the goal, and I think moving forward, the best thing for him to do right now is to leave to United, because he hasn't really contributed very much to the United squad at all. Not under his own fault, because obviously he was loaned out for a little while. I think it was a full season, wasn't it? He was loaned out for. And then obviously
it's from the January. He got loaned out in January to Sevilla, wasn't it?
That's it. Yeah, that's the one. Which they did offer to take him on, and we said no, and we've kept him. And I think that was probably the wrong thing to do.
I think they offered, I think it was like 15 million or something, and we wanted 25 or 30 million for him still.
Yeah, and I think that's just us being greedy, because don't get me wrong, I still rate Martial, but not highly because of his style of inconsistent play.
Well, it's like I say we can't sell a black cat to a witch. But our negotiations are absolutely shambolic. But
yeah, but that's why Richard Arnold ain't here anymore, mate.
Yeah, and hopefully, I know we spoke about the ownership as well on our last streams together, but I know we were both favoured of the Qataris, but we even said that it wasn't about Sergio or Qatar; it was about 100% sale of the club. But yeah, I just feel like that with whatever Sir Jim does, clearly he wants to make an impact. Clearly he wants to make a change. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing these changes. So hopefully it does go well, and he isn't here just to be another money man with the Glazers, because I don't feel like that the Glazers wouldn't have accepted his bid if they knew that he wasn't gonna be involved massively. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now this is an interesting one. Marcus Rashford.
Is he our flop of the season?
Yeah. For me, Rashford, worse than Donny. And
he's got some serious issues going on, and it's not being picked up.
I don't know, because again, performance-wise, yeah. Again, if anything's going on outside of off the field, then and his mental health is at an all-time low or something, then give him the time off like Jadon Sancho. Say Jadon Sancho got the time off last season. Why can't Rashford if that's the case? But there's something not right with Rashford. How can he go from last season to what he has this season? I mean, he scored one goal for us this season. That was against Arsenal.
Yeah.
He's. I don't.
It's like he's gone back in time, because he did this 2 seasons ago and did exactly the same.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden he came back.
Here's a question for you: do you think that this is the true Rashford, and last season was just an absolute freak blip? And that because Rashford's more consistent when he's playing poorly, and last season, because of the standards he's shown us, maybe that was Rashford at his peak. Maybe that was Rashford at the best we'll ever see him. And this is the actual Rashford. We've always held on to this homegrown talent. Man United, Man United academy graduate, and every United fan holds. It gives academy players a lot more time. You look at the amount of time Jesse Lingard got at the club, and he left on a free transfer. You know, I feel like with Rashford, you know, I love him to bits. I feel like last season he proved how good he is, but yeah, so much going wrong. I mean, putting him as worse than Donny, I think that's a bit harsh, but you know, all these players have hardly played, but with Rashford, you know, you've got to put him there. You know, he's
I would for now. I mean, I wouldn't say last season was a fluke at all. I think he played
again,
out.
like we said in the video as well, that you know, what's happened here? Bloody hell! There we go. Like we said at the start, like during the video, that if you was to ask us last season that McTominay, Johnny Evans, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Maguire all be our best performing players, we'd be like, "What are
they're
you
down
smoking?"
the bottom. Yeah,
they'd
be switched around, wouldn't they? Absolutely. But with Rashford, you know,
exactly.
He's as we both said, something's not right with him, and it's a case of this is exactly a similar style what happened 2 seasons ago with him, of something is affecting him mentally. We can't see that because obviously we as fans don't get to go into personal lives of players like this. But when you're trying to fight something mentally in your head, it shows that on the field, and you can see that with Rashford. I mean, I might be totally wrong, and he might be watching this right now, and I've got it completely wrong. But
hi, Marcus.
Absolutely,
Marcus. If you're watching this, I've always rated you, mate. You're our best player.
Yeah. I just, all I will say is whatever's going on, I just hope he can turn it around and get himself, because if you're not in good spirits, that affects you as well. I mean, if you look at Jadon Sancho, there's the issue of the dressing room with him, and it may be affecting him because it's like another Jesse Lingard situation that's going on, isn't it? Yeah. And maybe that's what's affecting him in the long run, because he sees players coming in and out, and he's been there, ever since the academy days, and he knows what it's like. We've just had someone come and saying, Job for Football, saying Rashi will score on Sunday.
I hope so.
Me too, because I want to see him back on track. I don't want to see him carrying on this slump that he's in at the moment. I want to see him back on track, and I know that he can be there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I absolutely agree with you. And Amad Diallo, we can just put with these players just not playing. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Amad, I mean, again, even with Amad, I don't rate Amad. I feel like he had a very decent season for Sunderland on loan. But again, I just look at him and like,
he's a championship player.
I see him like a Bernardo Silva type player. Like, I don't see him as a winger. I see him as like a very creative, crafty player.
But not for Man United. See, when it was announced that we'll be buying him in the was it the summer or the winter we were going to buy him? I think it was the winter in January. No, we bought him in January, didn't we? No transfer window.
Yeah, he came over in January, but I think we agreed the deal around September, just after the window.
Correct. So to have him in the start of the season or the transfer window in August.
I think he was 17 and he couldn't get a visa or
there was something, right? I didn't know.
There's some issue like that. Yeah.
So I remember that day very clearly, because it was the same day that my cousin got really excited about it. And he was saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see this guy play. I can't wait to see him get out on that field." And I was like, my cousin must know something more than I do. And and I was talking to my other cousin Joshua, and we were having a discussion saying, "Yeah, he looks all right. I've seen some of his gameplay, and hopefully, John's right with what he's saying. He must know something as a player." And when he came on in that season at the start of it, I wasn't wowed. I was like, "This is like another flop that we bought in. He's just not doing the job. He's getting shown up everywhere."
What people forget as well, we bought Amad for nearly €40 million.
But that's why we thought he was going to be quality, because the money we're spending. I've never heard of this guy before, and that's a problem. We're buying players now that I've never even heard of before.
Yeah,
but I never knew about Amrabat until we came to as on a radar as a loan. I'm like, who is this guy? I ain't got a clue who he is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like with Amad, I'll agree with you. I didn't really know much about him. Obviously, I've seen him on the occasional FIFA and stuff like that. But actually, in real life, I had no idea who he was. I just saw him as a because it was kind of like we weren't going to get because that was the season where we first went in for Sancho. We didn't get Sancho, and that's when we got Ahmad and Palestrin. He was like, "Oh, well, let's get 2 wingers and we'll see which one works out." But none of them got any game time. Like,
no, exactly.
do you know what I mean? That was the ongoing issue there. But
Exactly.
Ahmad, I don't rate personally. I feel like that selling him probably would be the best option because maybe there'd be teams out there that would be interested in getting him. But I just feel like that it was just one of them players that you bought for the potential, not the actual current talent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. Now, Rasmus Højlund. Now, Rasmus Højlund is a very debateful player because if you're saying his Champions League performances, then you're putting him up here. Trying to top scorer. But if you're saying his Premier League experience, you're putting him about here.
Absolutely.
So,
that's what I'm saying. The Premier League is a very difficult league to play in if you've never played in it before.
I'm going to put him as a bang on 6.5, possible 7, because I feel like that, when he gets it's not the fact that Højlund's performing badly. He's just not getting the service. When he gets the service, he's either going to just miss the goal or he's going to hit it on target or he's going to end up in the back of the net.
Yeah.
He should have a goal in the Premier League. That Brighton ruling out ball, whatever it was for Rashford, absolute BS in my opinion, because you look at the Newcastle one, that's the exact same situation, but their goal stands and ours doesn't.
Yeah.
And it
won't last forever, though. It won't last forever. But
at some point, he'll just break out of the chains and he'll just be scoring goals for fun. And I just feel I know some fans don't rate him. I know some fans. I mean, again, it's another player, £70 million, massive price tag. But with Højlund, I just look at him and I'm like, I do love the player. I feel like that. We've finally got a young upcoming striker. It's brilliant.
But every single Premier team knows to watch this guy because they know what he can do and how fast he can actually run. And I think every gameplay, every match will be, watch that man.
I want to ask you something. Could you imagine Højlund in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's counter-attacking team?
Yes.
Could you imagine how good he would have been by just sprinting through the middle, counter-attack, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. Mate, he would make Rashford look like a well, I don't even know what analogy you would use for that, but he would be the hare and Rashford would be the turtle, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's absolutely because I remember when his debut against Arsenal, very disappointing debut because that Garnacho goal that was ruled out for literally a toenail offside, whatever it was. That flick that he did to cause that Garnacho goal was beautiful. The time he got wrestled by Gabriel should have been a penalty. There was a moment where Arsenal had a corner. I think it was Maguire who cleared it. Eriksen lays it off to Højlund. Højlund then passes it to Rashford. And then out of nowhere, Højlund just sprints down and he was at the edge of our box who had just taken the corner. Then I think within 4 seconds, it was at the halfway line. The guy, once he gets started, he's an absolute machine. And I think they're in a counter-attacking side. Maybe that's where we kind of see him. And I feel like as a penalty box striker, he does that. He does have these flaws. And he does need experience. But the guy's only 20 years old.
How many how you look at the goals he scored in the Champions League? How many of those were the crossings? And he's just coming sideways.
Yeah,
at least
all of them.
Yeah, exactly. None of them being straight on.
This is where I'm going back to. About the service. It's not that he's the bad player. It's our system. It's our system that's letting him down. And this isn't just an ongoing issue with Højlund. It happened with Ronaldo. It happened with Cavani. Even Weghorst. That one time Weghorst got across, he got his lanky 6'6" head on it, and he scored. And then you see him in celebration, just it meant so much to him.
But how many times is this going to keep happening? Because when you've got Rashford who keeps trying to shoot on goal and there's not an opportunity, and you've got people waiting in the box. Same goes for Garnacho. Same goes for Fernandes. He's not being fed the balls that he needs to score. Yeah. But that's down to him to point that out.
Yeah,
we as fans are saying it, but he should be saying to them, boys, I'm open. If I'm there open, give me the ball. I'm the striker.
Do you feel like he feels quite intimidated by that? Do you feel like that he?
I think he probably would, because if you're stepping into a team where last season your highest scorer were the likes of Fernandes and Rashford, and you're stepping in, taking over that role, scoring goals, you probably would feel out of place. But at the end of the day, he's got to put the big boy boots on and say, "You're not scoring goals. If I'm there, you give me the ball, and I will make sure that we win this match." He needs to stand up and say that.
Yeah, I probably agree with you, mate. Honestly, I mean, we had that song with Cavani, give it to Cavani, passing the ball and watch him score all the goals. It's same with Højlund. Just give him the ball and watch him, just let him do his thing. It's like, Fernandes passes it to him, he'd be like, "Cheers, mate, I'll take care of the rest." Bang. That's exactly
but that's exactly that was Cavani.
Exactly. And Cavani was very injury prone, and I loved Cavani. But I mean, you've got that Woodward wanted Cavani. It was his wet dream or something, because when he was at Napoli, there was an article out there where it was Woodward's wet dream to sign Cavani for United or something like that. It was absolutely hilarious if you out that article.
I wish we had him a lot sooner, to be honest with you. And I do miss that he's not on our team anymore.
Yeah. Now, last two players, I mean, this player I will put right at the end. Antony, I want him gone. I know, like every single player, I'll give 3 seasons. Not this guy. It's different with Antony. Last season, he came in, scored in his first 3 games?
Arsenal, the first goal.
It was in the Europa League. He was scoring, right? And then what happened? Defenders started challenging him and wouldn't give him that space, and they wouldn't let him cut in on his left foot. And then they realised, hang on a minute, he's fucking shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, the guy might as well be hopping for 90 minutes. Like, that's probably why he's so obsessed with doing this spin, because he just gets stuck in one position and just doing like his little bobbing like a toy in a bath or something. But
no, would you not say that he's struggling as well as a player? Because of the backstory.
I don't care. I think his attitude stinks. I think he's a disgrace to the shirt. And I feel like that's why
he thinks he's amazing.
Yeah, I just feel like that. I know he's only 23, 24 years old. Yes, he has time, but I just don't see this guy developing. I don't see this guy getting any better. And his attitude is absolutely horrific. I mean,
do you think this is why Erik ten Hag isn't playing him at the moment, because of his attitude?
Yeah, I would honestly say so, because because the thing is that City game was the final, it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. Antony was sulking the entire game. He wouldn't clap the fans when he was warming up, like every other player. Antony was there just jogging and stretching and doing his thing. But, it's a classic thing when the players are running over to the Stretford end whilst warming up, they always clap the Stretford end. The Stretford end claps back. Antony wouldn't do that all game.
Okay, answer me this one then, Dan. Why has Erik ten Hag put him in the first place?
That's $1 million question. I have no idea.
He must have seen something, obviously, but when you're playing for the Eredivisie League, trying to get into the Premier League,
I feel like we've seen with Rashford, it's because Erik ten Hag likes his inverted wingers, and he likes his wingers to be able to create, and not create, but he likes his wingers to be able to have that poached instinct and go for goal. But then when you've got a centre forward like Højlund, you don't need to have inverted wingers. You need supportive wingers like a Palestra, like a Fernandes on the wing, and like a Mason Mount, for example.
That's what I like about Palestra. He will run at the players.
Exactly.
Antony doesn't.
This is why I love Palestra, because Palestra is direct. Palestra will create for you. He will do everything. This is why I say he's our best winger, because he does everything. He isn't just like Rashford or Antony or Garnacho, where they just shoot. I mean, Garnacho, he creates every now and again, but there's times in that Copenhagen game when it was 1-0 for United. Højlund scored his first goal. Garnacho had a perfect opportunity to pass it to him, and Højlund would have had his second within the first 10 minutes. And what happens? Garnacho shoots and it goes out.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at a lot of the way Antony plays, and I've been quite sceptical on this, because it's just like he starts running up the wing, and as soon as he comes up against a player, he stops and looks around to then pass the ball back. rather than trying to push on. And I've said this many times: is
the thing is though as well is that like this is why I also think that Jadon Sancho has failed at United, because in the Premier League you have to be a direct player. You have to be very direct to be to win in the Premier League.
Not to be afraid to take anyone on. Yeah,
exactly. Like it doesn't matter whether you take him on, you lose the ball. Anthony's scared to do so. Unless Wan-Bissaka or Dalot are doing an overlap, or one of the midfielders are coming to support him to give him that member to pass. He hardly takes on players anymore, and I don't think he has the pace or the strength to fight off them players either. And that's why I think he's failing. I think the Premier League is way too hard for him, and he's out of his depth. And that's where I stand. I think he's one of the worst players we've ever signed when it comes to quality. The price tag does come into an account for this one, because £80 million. That's when Ajax asked us for that money, we should have then just been like, no, we'll go and find someone else. £80 million. It's I think he's one of the worst signings we've ever had. To be honest, that's my opinion.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I just this guy. I'm done with Antony. Like, if he scores, I'm like, yes, but I actually don't like get out my seat and go yes and celebrate, like show like passion and stuff. For Antony, I'll be like, yeah, good goal. Still want him gone. That's literally what I'll be like from now on, because
and then he goes and scores 30 goals of the season.
Again, and this is like we said with Maguire, McTominay, and Wan-Bissaka. If they go to prove me wrong, happy days, because I was like slagging off Maguire on Twitter and stuff when he was performing badly. When he was pulling down Luke Shaw, his own man, when he was defending. When the time they turned around and like did a no-look like tackle and then just got skimmed past. Like, then they're the type of moments with Maguire that have made him a meme. But Antony, you've got TikTok templates where you've got a fidget spinner, like one of them toys, and you've got Antony next to him, and then just seeing which one lasts longest. Like, you just got Antony on loop, and you've got the fidget spinner on an actual video that eventually stops, and you just got Antony just constantly spinning like he's on the waltzers. Well, anyway.
Do you know what, mate? I'm going to get some gifts of him. I'm going to send them through to you. Antony gifts every time he scores a goal.
You know what, mate? I'll hang them up on the wall. And then Jadon Sancho as well. I mean, what are your thoughts on Sancho? Because the whole drama, it's like an episode of Coronation Street,
Needs to go and get a grip.
Yeah, I think so. I think just get a grip, do one. That's
I think it's about personally. I think it's very sad the way it's transitioned. Maybe something else happened in the meantime. And, you can't question a manager when he says something. If you're not performing, then you're not performing, are you? And the manager has every right to out you if you're not being the player that you're supposed to be paid to be doing on that pitch. What was he, 80 million as well, wasn't he? We paid for him? Like right? Yeah. So he's another player we paid 80 million for. Hasn't turned up. We gave him a 6-month break. Was it 6 months or 3 months?
Yeah, something like that.
So it's like a 6-month break. So he can gather himself, become a better player. And he did come back, and everyone cheered him back on, was happy to see him when he came back. And you remember that one? Eric Ten had his arm around him and saying, come on, mate, you've got this. And everyone's cheering, he's smiling, he's happy. And he never really delivered at all. And he's not playing the same as when he played for Dortmund at all. And that's exactly what Man United need, is a player like that. And when he got outed, I think, in the long run, he felt, obviously, Ten Hag outing him, he threw his toys at the pram.
He's like, it's not my fault, it's Ten Hag's fault. He's a bad manager. Like, I train hard in training, I never put a foot wrong in and stuff. He just went on the full defensive mode and panicked, and that's the end of it. And he didn't. It's like majority of the issues of modern day society. When they get in trouble, they always go on defensive and they be like, "It's fault."
But that's the thing is, Sancho is one of these players that he needs an arm around his shoulder continuously.
Yeah.
And when he's not being shown that's when he fell out of love.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a shame, actually, because I really rated Sancho and I really did like him. And I was just hoping.
I loved him at Dortmund. He was one of my favourite players. I mean.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Yeah. But
I mean, he just needs to be a big boy, put his pants on, and come and say sorry. Sorry, Ten Hag, I want to get back in the squad, because at the moment he's not even he's not allowed to eat with the first team players. Yeah. He goes, here's your lunch, mate. You can carry on. because
He's just there with his fruit shoe.
Yeah, but it's true. But he's on his own. Yeah, he's that kid that sits lonely by himself, but underneath that tree. And that's exactly the way he's being treated, because that's exactly what he's done to the club as well. He's out with the club, and he's caused an unprecedented unrest in the dressing room, and it's just very unfortunate the way it's turned out, because I'd like to see him carry on at United, but he's going to want to play for United. But now I can see him just going to the Saudi League just for the money.
Yeah, I agree,
Nothing
mate.
else.
Honestly, I agree. But that wraps up the show. I really apologise for how long this has took. Thank you for everyone.
There's a long list.
Yeah, it's a long list. Yeah, it's just like, it always happens. I always plan on a stream being like 45 minutes max, and it's just fucking 2 hours. Jesus Christ. So I do apologise. Your wife's probably going to shout at you, but I take the blame.
It's all good.
So, yeah. But just last thing, what are your predictions for Everton? What are your score predictions?
I'm saying 2-1 United. I do actually think this is going to be Rasmus' first goal. I think it's going to be his first goal, but I think Everton are going to put the punch on, because obviously they've now been deducted 10 points. Yeah. And they're going to be going, right, we need to get these back, because otherwise we're relegated. And they're definitely 2-1. Rasmus has scored probably the second goal. And I like to think that Rashford is going to get the first one, because he needs to get his boots back on and get those goals in like he did before. But I'm definitely saying 2-1, but I don't think it's going to be an easy match, especially after what's happened.
I've said it'll either be a 1-0 win to United or 2-1 United. I'm confident we'll win. Don't know why I'm getting this confidence from, but I mean, maybe it's the fact that I've not had to deal with United for the last 2 weeks.
Win, lose, win, mate.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had to deal with United for the last 2 weeks, so my mental health's actually been quite good, but ask me again after Sunday how I'm doing. But yeah.
Positive thinking, mate. That's what you need.
Positive thinking.
If we don't do well in the Champions League, we've always got Europa League.
No, I'd rather be out of competition. I'd rather not be in Europe.
So would I. No, I think we'll do well down the Europa League. I think it'd be a lot easier for us. I don't think we're ready for Champions League as much as I'd like to see us get through to the other stages. But I think even if we did manage to get through, we would be out in the first shout. I couldn't see us progressing any further than that. So I think maybe the Europa League would be a good step down for United, and hopefully win it this time. Because you haven't got the likes of Seville in there, have you? So
no, definitely not. But yeah, I appreciate you joining as always, and
thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for the comments. It's been a long stream, but I appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe if you are new, and yes, if you like this type of tier list, that type concept, we'll do some more in the future. Maybe ranking United's home kits, maybe ranking ex-legends about where they stand in United's history. We might start a little series about this. Not 2 hours long each show, I promise that. But
Simon loved it.
Simon, I really appreciate all your comments as well, mate. But as well for Josh and Jobs for Football and everyone else who's commented, I really appreciate all your comments. Anyway, definitely. Have a good night, everyone, and I'll see you later.